Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ilga Mignon. I welcome you all tonight at this first event of 2015 at Impakt. The name of the event is Land of Desire. The evening is centered around the work and a new forthcoming work of Donna Verheijden. And as you might have read, we are focusing on the seduction and the desire mechanisms within media culture, within media. It's a very recurrent topic in Donna's work as an artist, but also, of course, in media theorists' work, such as Geert Lovink, who is our special guest tonight, and who will give a short presentation around these mechanisms and their logic. As you might have known, we first also announced Dagan Cohen to be here as a speaker. He had to cancel, unfortunately, due to family circumstances. We're very sorry to let you know, but we're going to make do with these two special guests nonetheless. We have, as I said, this is the first event of the year. Sometimes we focus more on the festival theme at Impakt. This is the first of 4 events in which we will center resident artists. In Donna's case, this was a residency in Sao Paulo at LabMIS, the laboratorium, the residency program of the Museum for Image and Sound. She worked on a project there called Land of Desire, and therefore that is the name of this evening. The bar is open, some housekeeping. Right behind you all, near the candles, there's also a nice cocktail bar run by Bram van Leeuwenstein with caipirinhas to keep the Brazilian spirit that Donna has just briefly ago left in Sao Paulo. As we all know, this whole spirit of Sao Paulo, of Brazil, kind of keeps in mind for us in Western Europe maybe this idea of seduction and a very sensual atmosphere. So that actually leads me to introduce the first part of the evening, Ways of Seeing. It's a former work that Donna made. We showed it at Impakt Panorama program last year. Afterwards, we'll see Geert Lovink's presentation. Then we'll see the new piece by Donna Verheijden, Land of Desire. And then we'll kind of wrap it up into a conversation in which I invite you to tap in with questions or comments. And let's see. Yes, we'll start with the first video, which is an excerpt of Ways of Seeing, All the World's a Stage by Donna.
Hold your breath. Make a wish. Count to 3.
Come with me, and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. Take a look, and you'll see into your imagination.
Men dream of women. Women dream of themselves being dreamt of. Men look at women. Women watch themselves being looked at. Women constantly meet glances which act like mirrors.
The ego is the most expensive thing. The ego. The ego is the most expensive thing. The ego.
Reminding them of how they look or how they should look. Behind every glance is a judgment. Sometimes the glance they meet is their own, reflected back from a real mirror. In our urban world, in the streets where we walk, in the buses we take, in the magazines we read, on walls, on screens, we are surrounded by images of an alternative way of life. We may remember or forget these images, but briefly we take them in, and for a moment they stimulate our imagination, either by way of memory or anticipation. This other way of life. Publicity proposes to each of us in a consumer society that we change ourselves or our lives by buying something more. This more, publicity persuades us, will make us in some way richer, even though we will be poorer by having spent our money. Publicity is the process of manufacturing glamour. Is supposed to go deeper than looks, but it depends upon them utterly. Glamour works through the eye and the mirror.
Fame.
Whoever embraces a woman is Adam. The woman is Eve. Everything happens for the first time. I saw something white in the sky. They tell me it is the moon. But what can I do with a word and a mythology? Praised be the love, wherein there is no possessor and no possessed, but both surrender. Praised be the nightmare, which reveals to us that we have the power to create hell. Whoever looks at an hourglass sees the dissolution of an empire. Whoever dreams is every human being. In the desert I saw the young Sphinx, which has just been sculpted. There is nothing else so ancient under the sun. Everything happens for the first time, but in a way that is eternal. Whoever reads my words is inventing them. A machine gun can support shoes. Revolution can be wrapped around anything.
So let me briefly introduce Geert Lovink. He's a media theorist, an internet critic, scrutinizing, I suppose, the developments in our early digital landscape up till today and tomorrow. I think from the early beginnings onwards. He's a researcher, communication and media design at the University of Applied Sciences in Amsterdam and founding director of the Institute of Network Cultures. Please welcome Geert Lovink.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I'm really familiar with the topic, and it will be applied to a rather narrow field, the field of social media, which I know Donna's work is much broader, deals with visual culture in general. I often focus on the critical points in the contemporary culture where I feel that we can intervene and maybe also make a difference. This is the website of the Institute of Network Cultures. We do projects, for instance, like Unlike Us, which deals with social media. For me, in my own understanding, I make a distinction between different stages in the way how we look at the relation between the self and new media or internet culture. In my case, of course, the first is important. It's a constitutional moment. It's the moment when you log in, when you create a user account. That is still the same as it always was. But of course, that is the moment when the self becomes connected to the machine. And the second phase, of course, then this procedure, this ritual, gets an interface, a layer. This is, of course, the 90s culture, the culture also of the celebration of the so-called second self, of the possibilities to become someone else. Early cyberspace had that promise in it that we were not stuck in this very body of ours, that we were not condemned to our biological or social identity, but that there was a moment, a promise of liberation. The second self expresses this very good, and also the idea that initially cyberspace was seen as a parallel universe where these experimentations with the multiple self were able. Of course, then the whole dot-com crash came, and also 9/11. They coincided, and the whole web and internet culture had to be restaged, restarted. We can also speak of a renaissance after a severe crisis. So, and then we see the rise of blogs, the crisis of the virtual communities, so the disappearance of that whole idea of community, and the rise of maybe the idea of the internet culture as something that primarily promotes the self. So the self, it in a way goes back to the early stage, the first stage. So the self then becomes constitutional, and then this phase kind of, there's no real break here. Well, I would say the break is around to the 2008 maybe. Then kind of goes into the fourth phase of social media as marketing tool of the self. And crackdown, of course, of the second self, which I have devoted a whole chapter to. Mark Zuckerberg is still on the rampage against the second self. He does not want you to have a second account. He doesn't want you to change your last name, your first name, your gender, and so on, right? So there you can see that the social media really starts to become part of the repressive surveillance state, the close alliance between Facebook, Twitter, Google and the NSA and other secret services, and then kind of the whole social media as a promise, as a maybe a machine of liberation starts to show its other side. And this is probably, especially after Snowden, of course, last year, this is approximately where we are. Now that of course becomes very, very visible in the whole cult of the selfie, because and then we kind of move away from social media in the narrow sense again to visual culture a little bit in a broader perspective. But then the selfie cannot really be understood as an autonomous operation. The image and visual culture has become social, and the penetration of the social in visual culture for us it kind of culminates in the selfie. We don't see that necessarily, right? Well, you see it here. You don't necessarily see it in the image. And maybe later on, later generations will be able to completely analyze the image itself and read the social in the image, right? At the moment, for us, it is still layered, let's say, in the way that this is layered with meta tags, extra information, and so on, right? But obviously, and this is what many people say, the image culture itself is becoming social, and you can see that in Instagram and all the other Tumblr, all the other services, right? We've published this publication a couple of months ago, The Allure of the Selfie. It's kind of a history of the selfie. You can download it or order it for free, and you get it in the mail. It's written by this Canadian scholar. It's a little bit a history also of the self-portrait, and that has really developed already quite substantially. So this is now the network, the international network of scholars who professionally now study the selfie and the selfie culture, right? So this is already, I wouldn't say an established field, but we're getting there. It's really going very fast, and also, well, if you look at the extent, if you look at how many selfies are taken, it's completely justified to take it at least very, very serious, also just as an essential part of visual culture today. An aspect that's maybe not so often mentioned, but is really, really important for the self and for the selfie, is the way it connects to the so-called like economy. And here we can see that the like economy is really the economy that belongs to the kind of here to the move from the third to the fourth phase here. And so the like economy, and this is how, of course, Facebook and etc. make their living, and the recommendation industry, that has taken over from the so-called link economy. The link economy was still reference to, let's say, Web 1.0 and Web 2.0, and that the rise and the takeover, let's say, of the like economy is really when you can see that we've arrived here in that fourth stage. There are also artworks that deal with it. Of course, we've got in Holland, we are very, very happy that we have a lot of very, very good and rude and very, very brutal net artists who really go to the core of what internet culture is all about. But this is not Dutch, I would say, not at all. I think she is Brazilian and moved to Spain and is now in the United States, something like that. This is Amelia Ullman, and she is kind of becoming the living evidence of the selfie culture. So she is not just taking selfies, she's not studying or criticizing them or reusing them, but she is living the selfie life. And she is really staging this. And yeah, I can highly recommend you this work of hers. And yeah, let's see how far she will get with this. She might crash, you know, as you know, internet economies also crash or suddenly disappear or are being taken over. That could also happen to her. Who knows? But for the time being, yeah, you can follow her, and yeah, I find her work very fascinating. A more classical approach is this, of course, Ai Weiwei, who's taking a lot of selfies all the time, and he's probably the most famous artist, let's say, of the living contemporary artists who is taking a lot of selfies and also integrates them in his work, exhibits them, and of course you can also you know, follow him. I think it's Instagram, but I forgot. I think it is. Yeah, a good comparative study when it comes to the selfie is this work. Finally, again, a good, interesting work by Levmanovic, Selfie City. And it is a comparison between the different cities. And so if you want to look at let's say the local or the cultural influences, how this is done, and that's what we're going to do tonight. You can see here they are listed: Bangkok, Berlin, Moscow, New York, and Sao Paulo. Okay, so yeah, it's a really fun interface, and yeah, it's if you have anthropological feelings or something, go ahead. I haven't read anyone yet who has made an extensive study of it. The tool is there, the artwork exists, and yeah, it's there to enjoy. Of course, you can also just browse through it. That's how it approximately looks like. So you see an awful lot of faces, and you start to see patterns. You start to get a feel for the differences between all these global cities. Now I want to go back a little bit in the theory, because I think that's also an important and fascinating part, because in fact the selfie and everything that's connected to it has been around with us for a long time. And of course, it's very, very easy for art historians to say, well, of course, in the Renaissance, in the 15th century, people were completely obsessed with making selfies. Leonardo always was and always will, right? Yeah, I find that a little bit dangerous to argue like that. It kind of downplays the urgencies of what's going on right now. But having said that, this is really the starting point for many, many of us. Also, back in the days when people used to study blogs with me, that is, let's say, around 2007, 2008, right? That's when a lot of people started to get really interested in this culture, this Web 2.0 culture, where people had to confess a lot. And they were constantly writing, I was doing this and that. And then of course came Facebook and Twitter and speeded that up. It made it shorter, but of course the starting point and a lot of the kind of network architectures and software choices are very, very much the same. The starting point there is in blogging culture. And this sociologist, Canadian-American, Irving Goffman, wrote this really definite study back in 1959, the year of my birth. I'm always proud of that. Born in the year of the presentation of the self in everyday life. So this book, still, if you read it, it's as if he's discussing what we're going to go through tonight. So a real classic in that sense. Yeah, this is another one, quite important. Ali Russell Hochschild wrote this classic book, I believe in 1985. There's now a new edition out again. The Managed Heart, Commercialization of Human Feelings, right? So this is really one of the definite sociological works that deal with it. And since then, she has written variations of them. This is the last one, I think. The outsourced self. And so then, yeah, it becomes more urgent, more, here you can still see that it's a little bit ambivalent. It's called commercialization, but okay, you can say, well, maybe there's something good in it. That, of course, 30 years later, her studies have really gone in a very, very different direction. And really my hero in this field is Eva Illouz, who I really see as the contemporary embodiment of that whole sociological approach, which, let's say, combines elements from psychoanalysis and critical theory / Marxism. We will always see when we enter this field of the economy of desire, you always have the two words. You have the Karl Marx, you have the economic side of it, and you have the desire, right? The psychoanalytic, the sexual component, or the seductive component. And Eva Illouz has really updated this in this book called Intimacies. Which is about the rise of what she called emotional capitalism. And there you see again the two elements, right? And the way people combine the two. So this book has 2 chapters in it, by the way, on internet culture. So that's really interesting. The book is from 2007, called Intimacies. And she's writing there, for instance, a chapter about dating sites, which I really, really like and can highly recommend. So she's really, literally already bridging the things, right? So we can read her also as a media theory, as a critical theory that really combines the two. Eva Illouz, based in Tel Aviv. She is really a contemporary of the Frankfurt School and writing in this tradition, and I'm very, very happy that there are people like that. And there are other books also interesting. Her other books, Love Hurts, for instance, that's a really good one. She has written about the rise of the romantic notions in the 19th century, and also about more contemporary televisual culture. Then we jump, let's say, to my topic, to my field, and if I think of someone who has criticized the promotion of the self in the most harsh way, in the most, I wouldn't say precise way, but he really is on topic. Then it's Andrew Keen. So he's really an internet critic, and this book, it's not his last book, because his last book just came out, and that's called The Internet is Not Great. And that book, is really again, it takes the whole argument a few levels up. Again, of course, he feels the heat now of Eugene Morozov and others. So the field is really gaining a momentum. This book is from 2012, if I'm right, and only deals with the cult of self-representation in Facebook and Twitter. So that's the topic. Yeah, very well written. So if you're interested from a critical perspective, read Andrew Keen. I'm showing Anonymous here because I think that we cannot just only analyze and critique and study the contemporary forms of the self, but we also have to see, what is the underground culture doing with it? How does it respond to it? And I believe that Anonymous is the most profound, let's say, subversive culture that is a response to this pressure that everyone is feeling to constantly be engaged in self-promotion and so on. Why? Because it, of course, Anonymous radically breaks with the idea of the individual self, because you become part of a collective, and this is really for many people a liberating moment to leave behind the pressures that they feel to perform, look good, and so on and so on. Right? Now there are, of course, also other ways of doing it. You don't necessarily have to wear that stupid mask, right? It's that's really there's now a whole genre, and I'm giving a lot of talks, and I'm really involved in this, what I call the politics, of mask design. This is really now already almost a field where people, where there are lots of artists who are involved in undermining the idea of the Western self, the uniqueness of it, and who try to somehow hide and do that also in an elegant way. I want to close here also with this call. I'm an activist after all, of course. This is a competition that we organize with many schools, design schools, museums, small new media organizations across the Netherlands and in Flanders. It's called Crypto Design, and in Crypto Design we ask artists and designers to get involved in this field, because this is really where we are at. And so instead of only have a good laugh about the selfie culture or to criticize Facebook, it is also for me at least very important to develop alternative strategies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Geert, for this very enlightening talk. You are very, let's say, outspokenly critical, obviously, on these developments. Maybe you can step into the into these developments and the development of the self. Mm-hmm. I also can't help but wonder that somehow, if we ask anyone here individually in the audience, like, how do you resist, or how do you, everybody is very outspoken, but what would be your answer to the question, how does it suck us in collectively somehow?
Yeah, in the Netherlands we still very much believe in the authenticity of the unique self, and we are in fact a very individual culture, and have become so even more so over the last what I can see over the last 40-50 years. So and that of course now also stops us really from getting organized, and we're fucked. We're really because our individual, we believe that our individual self is a moment of liberation, but at the moment more and more people feel that it's becoming a trap, and because it stops them from linking up, from organizing themselves from teaming up with others who are in a similar situation. So what we originally saw as almost like an end point of a certain moment of enlightenment or whatever is proving now to be a real obstacle.
And some people would still argue that even though these first few moments within Web 2.0 provided a very new opportunity for everyone to individually engage with others through what sometimes is called these walled gardens of the social networks, do you still think that it has potential for us to unite? You say we failed to connect. Do you mean we failed to connect and team up in the real world, or do you feel
No, I don't believe that. No, I don't believe in the real world, please. No, I'm not. Never been, a big fan of offline romanticism. No, not at all. The technology has invaded our everyday life, and we need to politicize it. We need to understand that Facebook is in fact a conspiracy to not connect us. And even though there's 1.5 billion people on that website, they do all sorts of efforts in order not for these people to really connect with and stay within what you said, the safety of the known social sphere of the so-called friends. Facebook is not providing us with the tools to come together. No. But yeah, what's Facebook? I mean, we can forget it and move on. And a lot of people, in fact, already have. So I'm not pessimistic in that sense, because I know that these things can change almost overnight.
I thought it was very interesting that you showed briefly the front page of this Selfie City website. I would also encourage everyone to check it out. I think what it does is maybe one of the first websites or interfaces in which the internet is taken seriously as something that is not non-cultural specific. Somehow we have been maybe that's a personal epiphany that I had, but obviously our cultural differences between continents, between cities, are still huge. And this website really points out that even for the selfie culture, I think Sao Paulo, there's angles you can study how the diagonal lines within selfies are changing between Tokyo and Sao Paulo, and I think it's pretty much everywhere in the entire globe. It's exactly the same, but in Sao Paulo everybody is more outspoken and more close up. And it's very interesting.
No, absolutely, it's fascinating. I love that too.
Yeah. What do you foresee in this, let's say, despite this trans-global feeling of the internet, do you foresee something of a more individualistic or more regional?
That already exists. Think of China with all its own services, and at the moment China is still copying a little bit. So Weibo and a version of Twitter and so on. But over time, certainly the Chinese or the Asian. Internet culture, new media culture will and already is really different. Also because, don't forget, it's not very common in the Asian culture to be so specific and outspoken about yourself, about all your intimate choices and your experiences. So the social media use in Southeast Asia, for instance, is really different, and maybe that's also one of the reasons why this Facebook is not so big, or is also used in a different way.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Are there maybe questions from the audience to Geert's presentation? Some afterthoughts. Well, if you do later on, we will get back together here right after Donna's presentation. Thank you, Geert. We're going to switch the screen again, and we're going to have the first preview of Land of Desire by Donna Verheijden. I think that from the internet itself, Donna's work is more, let's say, even more closely investigating the self, but also the secret self, and that is a topic that we will try to analyze after her screening. Enjoy.
Est-ce que vous savez que veut dire SMS? Vous en envoyez toute la journée et vous ne savez pas ce que ça veut dire. Short message, et puis après, non, je sais ce que ça veut dire. Ça veut dire save my soul. Les gens, ils envoient des SMS comme on envoyait des SOS parce qu'ils sont tout seuls, ils veulent être avec quelqu'un. C'est ça que ça veut dire, save my soul.
To begin, you must desire. Without that, you will achieve nothing. Love nothing. Change nothing. Because desire is what starts it all.
I like to go to parties. I love to feel the energy. I like when people are looking at me and I can look at them. I like the music. I like the lights. The thing about makeup, what I like about it is that however I'm feeling, or whatever I'm thinking, or whatever I'm supposed to do, it just comes out. It's kind of like I can't be myself properly without it. When I go out at night, there's nothing that I can't do. I like that they don't see me, they just see an expression of me.
The spectacle is capital, accumulated to the point where it becomes image.
This could be me. This could be a million other people. Someone else's particles arranged differently to believe in this. To believe in this you, this me, to believe in success. Money.
If I had something like that in my corner, I'd shimmy go too. So much desire.
I must be available. I must earn money. I must spend. I must be happy. I must be present. I must succeed. I must not make mistakes. I must be professional. I must be safe. I must have a good body. I must be desirable. All I want is to be loved. We make friends through through dotted lines.
Als das Kind war, war das die Zeit der folgenden Fragen. Warum bin ich und warum nicht du? Warum bin ich hier und warum nicht dort? Wann begann die Zeit und wo endet der Raum? Ist das Leben unter der Sonne nicht bloß ein Traum?
Mama, mama, I'm halfway there. Don't want you to know what I said. What I do when you ain't home. What I do when you want mine. I can play all day with my eyes shut. With you on my mind all the time.
Ist, was ich sehe und höre und rieche, nicht bloß der Schein einer Welt vor der Welt? Gibt es tatsächlich das Böse und Leute, die wirklich die Bösen sind? Wie kann es sein, dass ich der Ich bin, bevor ich wurde, nicht wahr? Und dass einmal ich, der ich bin, nicht mehr der ich bin, sein werde?
Je ne sais pas ce qu'il y aura après. Je ne veux ni ne peux le savoir. Mais si c'est cela que je veux, si je veux la gloire, si je veux être célèbre, si je veux être aimé des hommes, je ne suis pourtant pas coupable de le désirer, de ne désirer que cela.
We collectively dream this world up together until human voices wake us and we drown.
Olá, amigos do Brasil. Eu não sei mais português, mas realmente quero para falar com você. vou ajudá-la hoje. Obrigado.
So,
Hello.
yes, does this work? All right.
I think it works.
So, Donna, maybe you can start by telling us a bit about your residency and about your plan when you got there, and how did it all go?
Wow. So, yes. Of course, I'm from the Netherlands. And so I thought, okay, like megalopolis, mega city, just go there and find your way or whatever. And I arrived, and there were so many buildings, and it was okay. Small girl in a very big city, of course, and thinking about all those. People living there, the same amount in Sao Paulo, there's the same amount of people living in the city itself as in the whole of the Netherlands.
Like about 16 million.
16 million people, yes. And this is, of course, very cliche, I think, to say, but so I arrived there, there's no advertising on buildings, outdoor advertisement is banned, so it's just really so many concrete blocks with people that you don't see. So it started off quite lonely, and I quit Facebook a couple of months before, so it was quite impossible to find any people and to connect with them, actually, really, because if you walk through the city, you meet a person, they say, do you have Facebook? No. Do you have WhatsApp? No. But why don't you have WhatsApp? Well, because I think it's bad, and it's like you should not do it. You should not share all your information with all those big companies, and it's bad, and you should not do it. Facebook is bad as well. Okay.
So how were you able to connect in a city that has 16 million people without WhatsApp or Facebook?
Well, even it got worse, because the first people that I met spoke English, but then no one spoke English afterwards. They all spoke Portuguese, and I'm not so good in Portuguese yet. So communicating was quite difficult, and it became a bit lonely at one point. But then I got WhatsApp, and my life went so much better. It totally changed. Yeah. So yeah.
We first viewed Ways of Seeing, which is a reinterpretation or also adaptation of John Berger's quite famous cultural historic essay from 1972. And in your new work, you're actually in the residency, your aim was to also see how does a city like this, with this size and a culture that is actually very different from your own, how does this same mechanics of desire and this branding and the image, how does that even work? Can you tell us a bit about what your plan was after, or before going, to Sao Paulo for your new project?
Before going, I was really interested in this banning of outdoor advertisement, and then I thought, how did they cope with it? Or
do you know why it was banned?
It was banned because it was polluting the city. Visually, yeah. Also visually, and there was light pollution, so they wanted to take all the neons away, and also just the banners, because the buildings were more beautiful, they thought, which is in some cases really true. But I really wanted to do research about Carnival, because Carnival is the feast of desire. Is the time where you fulfill all your desires. You can do. There's no hierarchy. You can just do whatever you want,
basically. There's so many babies being born after 9 months, of course. And I was really intrigued in this, so I wanted to see this. This was my main goal. And I wanted to look how it, I think on Facebook, well, I quit Facebook, that was really a stupid mistake. But that was a bit my plan. I didn't really have a huge plan, but I wanted to see this. I wanted to see Carnival and video guerrilla as well. Something new in my opinion. To beam advertisement, to project it. And when everything changed afterwards.
And so maybe you, I think the first thing that really stood out for me is that the Land of Desire, your new piece, actually has a way more personal approach than Ways of Seeing, where you kept maybe a safe distance between yourself and the footage that you used, whereas now you totally went naked, actually. I think that Secret Self, I think everybody here more or less has to kind of admit that these mechanisms work around us. How did that evolve for you? Was it a tough decision? Did you censor yourself?
Yes, of course I censored myself. I think so, because I don't think that what I wonder, the questions that I ask myself are for me myself unique. I think in a way it is something global, or loneliness, let's say, desires are global. Marketeers know that it's global, so they can sort of push that. But it was definitely difficult, I think, to put myself more in front. I always like to keep distance, so this is quite something.
and now you're also seeing it on a big screen for the first time.
Yes.
Was the process very different for you to build a piece from A to Z, like with the start and kind of the very rhythmic editing that you do? Was it very different when you work with your own voice and your own imagery?
Yeah, it's very different, I think, because when you use your own imagery, or at least when I use my own imagery, I have to accept the fact that there's not a context given. So you have to create the context around it yourself. What is really nice and safe, I think, with using found footage is that the context is already there, and the fact that you can play with the context is very seductive. You can just do whatever, you can put it, you can do whatever you want with it, and still it's understandable by the viewer. If you have your own imagery, it's completely different, because you have to make it, so I think, in a way, that's why I also invited some friends to speak. It's virtual friends, I don't know them. For instance, I asked Godard to do the intro for me.
He totally agreed.
Yeah, he said, yes, Donna, of course I will do it for you.
So what I wonder about when I see your work, and what I also like about it, is that you're, on the one hand, very critical towards these mechanisms. So we are actually not even aware of what we desire anymore, and in the end we might face loneliness or something more hollow than we thought we would end up with. And on the other hand, you very strongly pursue the same strategy. You use the same codes as the ones that actually enforce this logic and this desire in video. So can you tell us a bit about that? How do you see yourself between those two extremes?
I think, in a way, to use the same tactics or mechanisms, I think it's a way to get the message across, because you, how to say, when you have a certain tactic or a certain code that is already understandable by people, then it's more easy to read the message, or to be open to the message, to make it come into you or in your head. And I think that is really a way to plant a seed in somebody's mind or brain or however to make people think about certain things. And in a way, as a maker, it's maybe I lost the word. It's moralistic in a way, I think. So I think sometimes I see myself as moralistic as well, but then I think it's a message that you have to get across, you know. So yeah, there's always this two things in my head, like, oh yeah, I really want to do this, and at the same time I think, should I really say something like this to people, you know? So yeah.
So it's a bit of a bipolar relationship you have
with
this,
with
this imagery and with this footage, everything that you could use.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that actually leads us to one of your other, let's say, well, heroes maybe, documentary-wise. We're going to see a short clip from Adam Curtis's Century of the Self.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about this excerpt that you chose?
I think this excerpt is really pointing out what also Geert discussed earlier, how advertisers or marketeers sort of work on the individual, the self, in order to sell products. Mm-hmm. Adam Curtis is, I think, a great documentary maker. Sometimes a bit dogmatic, I think, but it's working. And anyway, he uses also this archive, this found footage and this context, the same idea, with the same idea. I mean, it's all there already. He pulls it out from the BBC archives, and he just grabs it and says, like, this is an example of what I'm talking about right now.
It's an illustration of
illustration,
yeah.
And it's already there, you know. It's already it was already aired. It was already broadcasted. So he shows that we are living in these kind of things. Yeah. So
we're going a bit backwards in time, chronologically speaking, in this media landscape. What is the year that Century of the Self aired? Do you know?
2002.
2002.
Yeah.
All right. When we come back after that, we ask Geert to join us, and we'll talk some more.
Thank you.
So, thank you for bearing with us. First of all, to the audience, are there any first comments, thoughts, questions on the first or other rows on what we just saw, on Geert's presentation?
Otherwise, drink a cocktail first and then you...
Yes. Loosen up.
Or beer.
Access to your unconscious.
Maybe we can start by a little survey here in the audience. Is who is on Facebook? Who quit Facebook?
Yeah,
you as well?
What?
Oh.
Yeah, but I got back again.
Oh, you came back?
Oh. Are there other people who came back?
No, you can.
Well, here, there's 3 people who actually went and came back.
Ah, okay.
You all came back actually, or you quit Facebook once and then several times.
It's like smoking.
But who really actually deleted his profile? Because you can do that on Facebook as well.
Put it on hold, or
no, you can delete your profile.
Okay,
like entirely.
So
you did?
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm faceless on Facebook, and I don't. I never add any friends.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
Don't use it.
No content anymore.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So we have many individual profiles in the room, and we have 2 grey faces or no faces at all. I'm interested to ask, because I'm still on Facebook. I've been thinking to leave, but I never did. And after all the things that we've been talking about, I can't help but wonder, is there also a way to be innocently indulgent in this, just enjoying the image and just giving in to it? Is there any way we can also just enjoy like this image culture, this visual culture? Geert, maybe?
No way. If you compare even Facebook with the earlier versions, let's say Orkut, which the Brazilians loved. Orkut didn't have all that personal shit. It was just about the community. They created groups, and it was not so self-centered, because this is what Facebook is all about, and what even earlier social networks didn't have. So in that sense, and Facebook really, from the perspective of aesthetics, is a complete and utter disaster, right? You can't do anything. There, in a way, what you are really forced to is confess and express precisely in the way they want and describe you. So this is really repressive template culture, at its ultimate, I would say.
Mm-hmm. I think in a way, if you are on Facebook like I was addicted at one point. This sounds almost like a
confession.
Welcome, Donna.
Alcoholic Anonymous or something. Hey, yes, I haven't been Facebooking for over 3 months.
That's interesting, Facebooking Anonymous.
Facebooking Anonymous. Maybe you should start a group here.
Yes.
I feel a new...
By the way, I can announce that there will be a Facebook farewell party in Amsterdam Stad Schouwburg on June 23, and everyone who wants to quit, come there.
All together.
There will be 700 people, and we're gonna have a wild celebration. So the Facebook farewell party, make a note. So.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think what I miss about Facebook is the information that is practical to me, like for instance the magazines or the events, and I think in a way I'm not such a big fan of Twitter, but I think in a way Twitter could sort of help me, but then and again I think okay, it's maybe the same, it's just too many thoughts. But I think it's okay to be indulged by it. I won't say like I don't talk to you because you're on Facebook. No, I think it's really something, if you know how to use it and to temper your desires to get addicted, then of course, why not? Mm-hmm. The only thing is that I think you should be aware that everything that you give, all the information that you give, or every search, every tap, every key that you press is being followed, and you should wonder like, do I want this, or how can I trick it, or like then make a game of it or something.
But how did that play out in Brazil? I mean, I'm a bit curious because I haven't been to Brazil for a couple of years. So, is this Facebook edition, for instance? Because in the video we don't see the cell phones, right, or the smartphones. We don't. But obviously they are there excessively. They're addicted, and that's well known. They really sold their soul.
Yes. I was really surprised by this because they have, of course, the selfie stick, but they even have a selfie stick store where you can buy several customized selfie sticks, which is so weird. I mean, it's even a longer extent. Okay, and so they make pictures of everything. They put everything on Instagram, and even if it's not theirs. I was talking to a guy when I just ordered a beautiful caipirinha, and he said, "Can I just make a picture of it?" I didn't know it. Can I just make a picture of it and put it on Instagram?
It was your cocktail.
It was my cocktail. Alright. So yeah, of course you can make a picture of it. That was weird, I think. But yeah, and I think they are really, really, really addicted to it. They make pictures of all the food. They make pictures of every occasion. They're even, I think in a way, because at one moment I saw like a group of friends sitting on a table, and they all were on their phone, and they were not speaking to each other while they were going out for dinner. And at one moment I heard this certain breathing, as if they were almost falling asleep. They become numb of like all the information that they consume. Like, I don't know, it's a certain kind of state in your mind.
So I think this
is extreme.
This is it's an image that comes to mind, right? I think in the early days of mobile phones, everybody was frowned upon when using a cell phone in public, especially in social places like cafes, but also in trains. What really stands out for me in this whole debate, and also in when you take a little step back and we talk about these desire mechanisms, that somehow we also want to be taken over. It's like summoning spirits somehow. It's like we talk about all these references to disease, like viral and contagious, as if it's very normal, but somehow there's this very primal, I don't know, instinct of us that you want to resist, but you also don't really mind being taken over. But this maybe it's a demon, which is something that you might argue, or maybe it's also something that we can welcome as something that exists parallel to our identities. Is that possible? Could you respond?
Or just software, right? I mean, you can. I would never use the word demon, because for me it's worse. These are economic programs. I think of all these boring people behind their computer screens, looking at Excel sheets, and that world, that is the world of Facebook. That is the world of people analyzing, what we do and what we want. Right? These are Excel sheets, and there's nothing worse than that. And their world is captured, in the Excel sheet. So you can talk about the demon behind the Excel sheet. All right, okay, then we can
but let's
do
see
that. But I'm more interested also in your new video, and. Because that also, of course, expresses the whole body culture of Brazil, and we know about their smartphone and Facebook obsession. But of course, it's also very known how much time and effort that they put in the beauty of their bodies, and the maintenance of it is excessive. Really, and the video, of course, tries to capture that as well. I believe.
I think with this obsession of the body in Brazil, is I think they treat the body as object. So I think to become an object in virtual space, let's say. It's not such a big step, I think. They see the body as something that, not everyone, of course, but that you can just add stuff on to, both male and female. So I think in a way the approach to the body is completely different than how we have it here. I think that's very interesting. I think in a way, I'm also seduced by these mechanisms. I like to be submerged in it as well. I confess to that. And I'm really, really, really intrigued by it. So for me, advertisement or music videos is just something that I can be completely amazed by, even though it is for like the Snow White girl. This is, MC Tati Tsaki or something like that. I mean, this is just amazing, right? How can you come up with an image of the apples in the bath, and then the girl in the bath in a Snow White costume, picking up an iPhone, an actual iPhone. I mean, it's just incredible. And those people, they didn't even think of this, I think. I don't know, but wow,
They might.
they might.
So, but this
Yeah.
celebration of the image, and that's maybe also why I'm polarizing this a bit, is that can we ever live without that visual culture, be it without these networks? Isn't it maybe something that we are drawn to in all ages of time? Is it something that we need to resist? Or can it work for us?
Well, first of all, we don't resist it. So I don't think that's really happening. It's ruling the world at the moment as we speak.
And
so
could we also see a positive side to that visual culture? Because I think in the end, if you are
well, it's our task. I think
or
as artists and critics to at least attempt to try to understand it, and this way the psychoanalysts tried to define it, also gave them a tool to influence it, to steer that process, not only just to passively understand it and its mechanisms, but to give these marketeers tools to actively shape, in this case, the world of consumer products. But the big difference, of course, with that time, with the 20s and 30s and now, is that this was done more or less as a conspiracy, as kind of, okay, now these clueless masses, these crowds are out there, and we are going to influence them. These days, we know that the neoliberal subject, of course, has incorporated all this and has become not a consumer but a prosumer who is forced to constantly confess themselves, right? So they are not anymore. Passive victims, and that's the new, let's say, circumstances in which we now in the 21st century live, and that's maybe it's a variation or a second degree of the same mechanism. That could very well be, but at least these days everything has to come from inside.
I think that that the selfie is the ultimate branding, not only branding of yourself, but also branding of the brands that you like. So you become the display of the brands that you are committed to, and the brands know this. So every selfie is another advertisement for another brand. For a lifestyle, for a way of living, a way of expressing yourself, even just everything that you put on Instagram shows how you are as a person, what kind of things you desire. You can be put in a certain box and categorized, and it's easy. I mean, the person itself becomes the advertisement, and that's just something amazing.
Yeah, because initially you would think, oh well, I'm not there with that bottle of Coca-Cola. So if that image of Coca-Cola is not inside the image, inside the selfie, it's all right. But that's absolutely not what it's all about, and not what they measure, and not what they're after. For instance, they look at clothes, at your expression of the face, how you feel, your hair, everything. There's a million, kind of parameters that they can measure, and they are not interested in let's say, the explicit way you could show a product and say, look, I bought this or that nice gadget.
Yeah.
Are there any questions or comments? I'm very curious what is going on inside your minds, or checking updates or notifications. Does anyone want to respond or ask Donna anything about her work as a visual artist, or does anyone have similar?
Individual, or the desire to be an individual, has been commodified and is used by commercial parties. but isn't it really a different? Are we still talking about collectives, but in a much more diversified way? These new media technologies allow us to have a much more specific idea of certain groups. The groups get smaller. And are we talking about, like Geert, you explained that we all have been taught that it's good to be individuals and not part of a collective.
Yeah.
So now this all of a sudden turns around. Being individual becomes something bad because you become a step in the marketing process. But then, so my question would be, is this really about the individual, or is it about a much more specified idea of groups? Groups that are still targets because they have things in common, they share a certain desire, and they want to buy a certain thing, and that's... Are we then talking about individual or about much smaller groups?
Did everybody hear that? Back? Yes? Okay, so is it about individuals or maybe also about collectives?
Well, first of all, I think when it comes to advertisement, it is about individuals because the more information we feed them, the more precise they come back with targeted marketing and advertisement. So yeah, in the small world of the social media, yes, that's true. But if you look at it from a bit further and look at it from marketing perspective, then the individuals are not very interesting. Mm-hmm. And they are more contributing to certain trends. And as you say, yes, there are smaller groups. And those groups can be identified and targeted. But that's what they say. That's what they even say, from the NSA. In the end, the NSA is not these secret services are not interested in you as an individual case, right? They're looking for patterns, and that's much more interesting for them.
Yes.
Yeah. I was wondering what you think about the situation with China. Like, they have this firewall, and they're the structures you talked about are.
Yeah, the structures you talked about are highly in use there. I don't know. Like this marketing structures are used to control the people. I think. What do you think?
Control, I don't know.
Also focusing on China.
Yeah, ultimately yes. But the internet culture in China is extremely commercial. Huh?
Yes.
And so, yeah, so it is really about making money, buying products and services online. It's about dating, gossiping, you name it. Yeah, and maybe sometimes we in the West or in Europe are then disappointed a little bit. Like, then you have so many possibilities, and that's what you do with it. But that's the Chinese internet culture as we speak. So of course there's a lot of turmoil in the country as well. There's a lot of strikes and there's a lot of stuff happening. And people use these, especially social media platforms, sometimes. But the overwhelming amount is just brutally commercial culture. Yeah. I don't know. I hope I don't upset anyone by saying that. But yeah, I'm disappointing myself because maybe I had some other romantic notion about what you could do with it.
When I listened to what you said about Facebook, and I'm a Facebook user, and so as from my so I would say ervaringsdeskundige. Experience. I haven't experienced expertise. I haven't studied it. I haven't studied my own behavior analysis. But I see
that's good, maybe.
I see a great variety in how it's being used among my friends within, and what I also when I see how I take out from this Facebook and how I present myself, and I think. Is it only dangerous because 1.2 billion are on it? Or is it the fact that I'm connected to something just like the postal services but different? Because that's I can get a letter from one place to the other all over the world, not to everyone, because in some systems it takes a really long time to get a letter. But I think in that system, I think to talk about it, so it is a commercial system. But since it's done so well, like it was said in the last piece, the last saying was, if the politicians are trying to be Freudians, they should stop it, because it seems like the Freudian system is working really well in facilitating me in getting great and interesting information sometimes by my friends at Facebook. I'm informed about a lot of interesting art or pop culture that it really fascinates me, and sometimes I really need to share this. I'm just trying to get this other voice of from a user perspective, being a part of that system, that I see a great force in that within that commercial system. Yeah, so that was my
good.
It's not really
good point,
question, but more a point.
I think it's an interesting thought that there's also a way of opening up our own worlds, sharing and using it as a tool, rather than only analyzing what it maybe means in a. Is that maybe something?
Yeah, in a negative sense.
In a negative
because that's what I hear. Like,
yes,
you take a block and you talk about it as if it couldn't be actually to access into really powerful human interactions. Yeah.
Maybe you want to respond?
I think you're right. I think, of course, it gives like so much information that otherwise it's impossible to access or to find. I think also, in a way, if you curate your own Facebook wall, then you can get like so much great information. For me personally, it just didn't win over, So I mean, I don't think Facebook is super negative. It's just something that is maybe not for me, and maybe I don't have to conform to it. I think, I miss sometimes also all this great information. So I'm thinking now, how do I get this kind of thing back? I have to.
Is there any alternative?
Well, that's. I mean, I don't know. I didn't find out yet.
I personally, I don't think so.
No, it's just only managing my bookmarks in my in my browser, and then okay, this I have to click around 10 pages a day to see what is new. So, that's the advantage of it. I think that's the great thing about it. That's what makes you also hungry for more. I think.
That's three.
Oh. Maybe in the back. We didn't hear the back yet.
Yeah, I just want to ask something maybe completely different and not talk about if Facebook is bad or good or. But I just want to know, what are your motives? To make this work? Make your work? Because now it's. Do you see your work as extremely activist, or what are your personal motives to produce this work?
Because?
Well, maybe because now it's in a different context, and maybe you have something else to say about it as well.
I'm really fond of the what's the name? psychogeography, by psychogeographists from the situationists, and the theory of derive. I see. I always make derives, which are like big, long wanders through streets, physically or on internet or in magazines or whatever. So in a way, what I try to do is put all my questions out there, and I know that many questions, or I think at least that many questions that I have are not questions that I only have myself. So I think in a way, if I just put it out there, you know, there you address a certain amount of people, because you can sort of identify yourself with it. So these are wonders, I think. It's also a derive here through Sao Paulo, through the internet, but also in my own thoughts. It's a visual essay in a way. I don't know if I don't consider myself as an activist.
Maybe
I try to analyze and criticize, maybe, but
so
not. It's not an activism. It's not an activist act, I think. Did you consider it like
or
that?
maybe raise awareness, or maybe.
Yeah, it's raising awareness.
Motive.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe. Yeah.
Another question.
Yeah, it was actually. Oh, sorry. It wasn't really a question, but yeah, you just asked. So how could you get the information? It's not. Maybe. Well, for me today, I was just wandering around and following my intuition, and by wandering, I walked into here and I saw her. I ring the door, and she said, "Tonight is this." I didn't know anything about it. I don't use Facebook, and I didn't this time. I didn't hear face to face. That's the other one, face to face. So yeah, and it's all about yeah. I think it's very interesting this night because I've written a song some time ago, and it's called Face to Facebook, and another name for it is Real to Real. So I feel really on my place, and it was just by intuition. So I don't know if it's the answer, but
it kind of makes the circle around. Yeah. What was your question?
Yeah, I have two questions actually. One of them is overlapping with the opinion just mentioned. My question is there a way to, as I also consider myself aware of my online, let's say, behavior, so is there a way to still be present, or like to be engaged with this, let's say, selfish infrastructure, but staying critical, which relates to the second question, because in order to reflect on it or even to analyze it, I should be engaged instead of taking a critical distance, because you just said I'm trying to take, or like to keep the distance, but I think talking about prosuming instead of consuming, and talking about already mentioned by the critique in let's say related to this discourse about Web 3.0 already, of prosuming, we should be engaged instead of taking a distance. Sorry about the long question, but that's thoughts.
No, thank you. Did everybody hear that in the back? Yes? So is there a way to critically engage without the distance of quitting Facebook, perhaps? Or
yeah, like participating, but being aware to stay critical, the first thing. And then, because that's the way to kind of successfully reflect on it, because if you really take a distance, if I'm out of Facebook, how I will be able to react on it?
Very good question. Geert, do you have a preliminary finding on that?
No, no wrong question to ask. I'm looking for alternatives. So.
Yeah, you have Elo, I think. It's not so much elaborated yet. I think what is really nice is that you can create, of course, a false name. You can create an alter ego which looks kind of real, and then use that really. And what I said before, curate it, but also curate your messages, maybe. You can think of subliminal messaging, or just not and follow people that you like. But you have, for instance, Luther Blissett is an account that is like, it's from this art project, and there's this couple of anonymous people who created this account and just started adding people, like making so many friends. And yeah, I think in a way you can also create your own alter ego and then come back and do it, or just create your own Facebook, or don't do it and then think like, what am I seeing? I don't know. I don't say like it's bad. It's not. That's not the purpose of my discourse, I think.
I would like to add actually that I personally think it's a very good point that you're making. The idea of staying aware of these mechanisms. We can never fully distance ourselves from it, nor can we fully distance ourselves from capitalism. We could also admit that there's some forces at work that also work for us in a very positive way. They make our lives smoother, we get our information, we are able to connect very deeply sometimes with our friends or yet to be friends through Facebook. And I would definitely think, maybe like many people here, I like to see myself as somebody who is aware of these structures, but still is on Facebook, and luckily not that addicted as I am to maybe smoking. You know, that would be way harder to quit and come back. So maybe everybody needs this one big thing. No, but I'm serious. I think it's a very interesting point that, and I still would like to know that on the long run, will we all be on Facebook in 15 years?
Even if we consider it as an imaginary concept of disruption, it cannot happen from outside or like by escaping, right? It would be like something from the inside.
Something from the inside.
Part of it, yes, and familiar, and then you attack.
I think
I don't know, it's just really imaginary thing.
Yes.
I'm not really against as I can control by being inside.
And I think that's an interesting concept as well, because it kind of speaks to this idea of maybe the only way of resisting could be if we sabotage it, if we somehow disrupt our, so to say, identities by liking, disliking, trying to kind of break the patterns, which is maybe also futile, but still would be a futile step from within instead of from the outside, where you can't engage with these, again, walled gardens because you're not logged in anymore, you don't have your password. Would you like to comment?
Yeah, but the previous, also very large systems really prove that there's a whole other mechanism at play when things start to decline, and that's the factor of boredom. People just get very, very bored, and then they forget, and so they don't even delete. And so the whole trick, if you want, the cultural strategy of us should be one of forgetting. And forgetting goes very, smooth. It's not something, but it happens over time. So it doesn't happen overnight. You forget Facebook, but all the other instances in the development so far of internet culture so far prove that forgetting is the most powerful one. And also for Facebook itself, the hardest to combat, because the resistance is of course small and irrelevant, incomparable to that overwhelming human, all too human.
We forgot about MySpace. And
Yeah, exactly.
Facebook.
Hey, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there you go. Yeah?
How would forgetting help is the question.
I mean, it only helps if we get something that we like better.
Of course.
Which will come, I think. I think they made a big mistake by forcing the advertising to play while you're scrolling through your wall, or those kind of interventions. I think start to make people bored. I think. Yeah. Then again, I'm not a Facebook expert.
I would actually argue that forgetting in our day and age is something that also can be very liberating. And maybe we are not forgotten entirely, but we're just talking about Facebook now. Maybe that's more of a more broad notion on our
for
digital
instance, maybe it's harder
landscapes.
to forget, the cult of the self or the cult of the body. As these are things that are maybe even more, much deeper ingrained and much harder to combat, because in the end, Facebook is just a platform, and that's it. And I think, for instance, the cult of the selfie points at a direction in society, which probably expresses and will express itself in the near future in many more ways. Now it's only this picture, quite harmless picture in a way.
What would be your wildest broadcast for the future? I think you've been studying these. It's a serious question. You've been studying developments, let's say maybe in digital sociology direction, and I think if anyone, you're the one to ask. What will be the next big thing in the internet itself?
Big and maybe very necessary thing is when. When we return again, what this video also said, to some rational use. And the rational use, for instance, of social media or of these platforms will inevitably happen, in times of crisis, in times when there are big shortages, maybe when there's war, when there's, and we have, for instance, in Holland, we have zero idea what that could be all about. Elsewhere, they have some clue, but they don't really know exactly how to utilize it. But if I think of the near future, I think it's really would be good, and it will happen inevitably, that we're going to use all these toys, and because they're now fascinating consumer products like the iPhone or whatever, and we're going to just need them in very different ways.
Yeah, I think in a way, coming back to the intro of SOS is a very beautiful thing. I think this idea that the SMS is a cry out for to be with someone, or to not be alone, and so you can. Yeah, I think this is really the core for me. You are alone, you send this SOS, and you can use it in many ways when you're in need of something. Yeah. So.
Luckily, there's also the power of art. There's also the power of artist residencies in Sao Paulo that result in an incredibly interesting new piece. It's definitely maybe I would like to stay in a little bit of a maybe not oblivion, but I would like to really end with that positive note, since I think many people here are aware of these mechanisms, which makes me very optimistic. What also makes me optimistic is the use of the image in a critical way. Design, for example, graphic design, as you were also schooled to be. I would like to thank you once again, Geert, for your very critical and sometimes scary thoughts. I think we are going to have to agree with you to a very large extent. Donna, I would like to thank you for presenting your video here for the very first time. I was very positively, I was very happy to see your new take on yourself within the mechanisms of the secret self and the internet self. And I think now I'm kind of winding up in the hollow end of this theory, and we might just hit the cocktail bar.
I think
that is still waiting for us. And I hope that everybody here who feels like they had this last thought about this, just join us. We'll be right over here. I'd like to thank you for bearing with us and joining here physically in this space at Impakt for our first event of 2015. Thank you all.
Thank you.